All right, so let's take a look at the neck and let's try to understand and navigate the fretboard. First thing we're going to do is label the strings so we can orient ourselves and figure out which direction we're looking at. So as you can see, E, A, D, G, B, E. This low string here is the E string, which is on the bottom of our diagram. I'm going to label that thick. And then so that would mean the high E or the thinner E is up there. So as you can see, we're looking at it kind of upside down. This white area is the nut. Each one of these white lines is the frets. And these are dot markers that you might see on many guitars. These dot markers here, the little circles. That'll kind of help you orient yourself when you're looking at the guitar. And then of course these lines here represent the strings. So this is a diagram. We're not looking at sheet music. This is not tab. Okay? Each one of those represents an individual string. And then here, down on the bottom, I've labeled the notes of the alphabet in alphabetical order in one full octave. So when you look at the dot markers, they usually delineate the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 12th, and 15th in this case. And some guitars have variances, but this is basically a kind of general idea. So if we counted the rest of the frets in between, we get the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, 11th, 13th, 14th, etc. So I'm going to remove these dot markers now so that we can fill in the fretboard, and I'll just put them down here. Now that the fretboard is empty, we can take a look at the notes in order, right? So we have a 12-note octave in Western music, and we have our accidentals labeled here in red, and the rest of the notes here are in blue. And as you can see, it goes from A and ends on A, giving us one full octave. That 12 notes per octave can be first noted here on the 12th fret of the guitar. What that means is the open string E will then also be called E at the 12th fret. Obviously E an octave above, and the same will go for the rest. If we take the notes in alphabetical order here and we go along the A string of the guitar, which is one up from the thickest string, we can go ahead and label the notes in order, and we can see them laid out across the fret. This is really helpful because A is going in the order of the English alphabet, and so it's a little bit easier to see. So A sharp or B flat, B, C sharp or D flat, D sharp or E flat, E, F sharp or G flat. I want you to go ahead and fill it out on your own as well. G sharp or A flat, and then back to A. So you see how that works? It just goes in the order of the notes as they would appear chromatically. So the A string is pretty easy, but we have to also label the rest of the frets as well. This isn't the kind of thing that you're going to immediately be able to memorize. Instead, what you should do is apply a system of understanding to that. So here you can see that if I take the octave and repeat it, the notes just start over again and keep going. Now, if I go from D to D in that regard, then I can spell out all the notes on the D string. So we start on the D, which is open, then D sharp or E flat. Then we move on to E, then on to F. Then, of course, F sharp or G flat. Remember, these notes have two names, G sharp or A flat. Then that takes us to A. Next would be A sharp or B flat. Then B, C sharp or D flat, and then back to D. So as long as we situate ourselves within an octave of our beginning open string, we can just count down until we get to the 12th fret, and that'll help us really understand what the individual names of each fret are going to be. Now, some of these notes are going to repeat, but I don't want you to think about that right now. Right now, I want you to just focus on counting down the notes on each string to kind of help you get used to it. Now let's work on the B string. So B goes to C, then C sharp, D flat, then D, then D sharp, E flat. I want you to do this, follow along if you can, okay? Draw it out or play it on your instrument. E to F, F sharp, G flat, G, G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat, and then of course back to B, giving us a full octave. You see, that wasn't that hard actually. It can be a lot to kind of visualize at once, but it's not that tough. Okay, let's go to E now. This E is going to go from E to E. We can start here. Labeling E goes to F, then F to F sharp, or G flat, G, G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat. Now this can seem like a tedious exercise, but you're actually going to end up learning a lot if you take the time to do this on your own. So definitely do this on your own. Write this out in your notebook or count down the frets, and try and make this a part of your practice, because it's going to help you understand a lot of stuff later on. Right now we're just trying to get familiar with the fretboard. So that E itself can just get repeated again here on the high string. The pattern is the same, but obviously the notes are going to live in a different range. But I want you to see the patterns right now, okay? So that the high E string has got this label here. Let's clean that up, and then now let's look at G. So G is, it's off screen here, but basically I want you to imagine the G goes to G, and we're going to spell that out. G sharp, A flat, A sharp, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D flat, D sharp, E flat, E, F sharp, G flat, and then back to G. Now we got to go on from the 12th fret and above. Different guitars are going to have different, lengths, how many frets they go up, but the idea is the same. The octaves just repeat again from the 12th fret up. So the same pattern can just be copied, and we can just drag it over, and that same sequence will repeat again. So now let's kind of take a look at it real quick, get ourselves familiar, and we can kind of move from there. Here we can see on the fretboard what we call the 1-5 or power chord, in this case G to D. So this is a movable shape. So once you learn this movable shape, the 1-5 power chord, very popular in punk and rock, you can just move this shape around. So I want to get you familiar with the idea of where the 5 is and where the octave is. Here I've marked the octave, so this is 1 to 8, G to G, or the octave. Some power chords or some variances of the power chords might have 1-5 and octave. So if we move that around, you can see here A to E. Here you can see B to F sharp. If I move it back here onto a different root, C to G, that's a 1 and 5. So this works on both the 6th string root and the 5th string root. So this is a really good way to get started kind of navigating the guitar and playing at the same time, is playing these 1-5 shapes and moving them around from different roots. Now if we go A to E here, you'll see that that still works as a 1-5. That's from the D string root. But you're not going to be able to add the octave in the same shape because the octave lives in a different place. So if we wanted to do A, E, A shape, it would have to be a little bit different. And that's something to take note of, the first variance, which is that B string. So here it is, A here, A to E, and then A to A, then A to E again, and then A to A. Now this entire shape is also movable. So moving these shapes around like this will help you kind of understand how to navigate the specific intervals on the fretboard themselves. Let's take a look at the major scale. Scale is basically, here we're going to start on G. So the G major scale is going to get spelled out in a shape like this: G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And here you can see how I made that shape, that sequence, that sequence itself is also movable. If I start it from here, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, etc. If I move it here, so now that becomes the B major scale. So that first blue note is the root, and then that second blue note is the octave. So we're playing it across one octave. Here we have the C major scale. This same shape can be moved to the fifth string root as well. Here's the C major scale in a different position. Here is the D major scale, beginning on that fifth string root. Here's the E major scale. So all of these are still the major scale, but they're being moved around to begin on a different root. So this is a way of thinking about the guitar in shapes and understanding the patterns and the sequences that can be moved around. Not all of them can be moved around, but many of them can. Let's take a look at another scale called the natural minor scale. This is a pretty easy one to conceptualize because it's just the English alphabet in order. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. All right, this is called the natural minor scale. If we start here with the open A, you notice I've circled the open A and I go straight down and I just skip every accidental. I get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. That is itself a natural minor scale, right? And that's going linearly down the neck. Here it is in a different shape. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. See, I've marked that in yellow. Now we've got a different kind of shape that's going across the fretboard. So there's different ways of playing scales. You can go in different ways. Now if we move to a second octave, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now that gives us a shape that moves across two octaves. See, that's our secondary octave. Now here is an example of it going all the way across the fretboard. Starting not on the first note, but starting on F. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we get multiple octaves by going diagonally across. But of course, we're not starting on the root note, so that's something to take note of. But this is also an interesting way of thinking about and dissecting the fretboard out. Okay, now that we've finished our exercise, I'm going to go ahead and place this on the screen. I just typed it out, make it easier to read. I know sometimes my handwriting is not that great. So you can go ahead and screenshot this and draw on top of it and use it for your own purposes. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time.